لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد. We continue with our book الملخص الفقهي من علوم الإمام الألباني رحمه الله تعالى. In this book, Abu Islam Suleiman Mubarak has gathered the fiqh positions of Al-Imam Al-Albani and gathered them into sections, Kitab al-Tahara, Kitab al-Salah, and put them on the same format as books of the different madhahib are, in which the ruling is mentioned without the evidence. So we're reading the book to see what the positions of Sheikh Al-Albani are. When we come across something strange, then we can, inshallah ta'ala, look and see why he said what he said, what dalil did he use, because we know he was someone who used the dalil. So we'll look at the dalil, inshallah, and mention it along with it. But the main part of our goal here is to read the book and understand it. And therefore, we can read other fiqh books and understand them and delve deeper, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Mas Saw.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته أستاذ. كيف أنتم؟
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Okay.
I can't hear you if you're talking. I can't hear you. I can't hear you if you're talking. I can't hear you. Mas out. Assalamu alaikum. In any case, we'll begin to read. We're on page 76. The link to the PDF can be found in the first video of this series, and you can download it and follow along with us. The goal would be to read ahead 4 or 5 pages, try to get an understanding, and then see if you're going to have any questions regarding it, and then we'll bring them up, inshallah ta'ala, during the class. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. You hear now?
You there, Akhi?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Could you hear me this whole time or no?
Yeah, I did hear you.
Okay.
But you couldn't hear me. وعليكم السلام.
نعم.
جزاك الله. Thank you.
طيب. فصل الثلاثون, the 30th section out of 72. He says, and we ended yesterday speaking about who deserves to be the imam, and now we're going to still talk about the imam some more. He says, tajuzu imamatul ma'dhur. It's permissible. Tajuzu imamatu, and the ta is here because of imama is feminine. Tajuzu imamatul ma'dhur. The imam of the one who is excused, meaning someone who is excused from having to pray in congregation, he can still be the imam if he shows up, even though he has an excuse not to come. For example, he's sick, so he doesn't have to come to the masjid, but he comes and he has more right to lead the salat. He can still lead the salat, even though he has an excuse. Assalamu alaikum, ya Aba Muhammad.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Allah barak feek. He says, wal mubtala. Wal mubtala is someone who is afflicted with something. And here, I asked the Sheikh last night when I was reviewing for today, and it seems to be that he's mentioning certain things in general, and then he goes on to mention some specific issues of that. So al-mubtala, someone who's afflicted or tried with something, meaning he has some type of affliction which would make him ma'dhur, not having to come to salah, or he comes to salah but yet he's afflicted. What kind of affliction is not clear, and even if you go to the footnote here in Tamam al-Minna, it's not clear. He says wal a'ma, and the blind person. So the blind person is permissible for him to lead those who see. وَالْقَاعِدِ الْعَاجِزِ عَنَ الْقِيَامِ. And here we have someone who's mubtala, for example. And the one who is sitting, unable to stand. Al-ajiz, he's unable. An al-qiyam, he's unable to stand up. So this person's afflicted with some type of sickness or i'aqa, some type of handicap. Right? وَالَّذِي لَا يُمْكِنُهُ الْإِحْتِرَازُ مِنَ الْبَوْلِ. And the one who is not possible for him to al-ihtiraz. Here, I was looking for the word last night for it. It's form 8 of ha-ra-zay. Basically, he is not able to protect himself from urine, meaning he has this leakage, right? But we know, what does the person who has this leakage do? He makes wudu once the adhan comes in, right? He makes wudu once the adhan comes in. This person, if he's the most reading, aqra'u min al-Quran, if he's the most reading of the Quran, the most memorized of the Quran, then it's permissible for him to lead the salah. If it's permissible for him to follow, it's permissible for him to lead. So this is from, Allah knows best, from the categories of al-mubtala, someone who's afflicted with something. وَكَذَلِكَ إِمَامَةُ الصَّبِي. Likewise, the leadership or the person being the imam, meaning the child doing so. As-sabi, the child. Him leading the people. If he's the most read and the most learned of the Quran amongst them, it's permissible for him to be the imam. وَإِمَامَةُ الزَّائِرِ لِأَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ بِإِذْنِهِمْ. وَإِمَامَةُ الزَّائِرِ, and the leadership or the imamate of the visitor. Az-za'ir, from the same root as ziyara. Az-za'ir لِأَهْلِ الْبَيْتِ. Someone who's visiting the people of a house. Someone who's visiting someone. The person who is in charge of that house, he's the one who should lead the salah. But if someone comes and the people of the house allow him to lead, that's why he says bi'idhnihim, with their permission. They give permission for him to lead because he's more knowledgeable than them, or they just want to honor him. Then it's permissible for him to be the imam. كذلك إمامة العاصي. Likewise, the imamate of the disobedient person. والمبتدع, and the innovator. صحيحة. It is correct. If someone is a disobedient, openly disobedient to Allah, shaves his beard, wears his pants below his ankle, drinks alcohol, listens to music, mubtadi', he says things about Allah which are, he denies that Allah is above his throne and says he's everywhere, or whatever the case might be, his salat is sahih, and him being the imam is sahih. وَالصَّلَاةُ خَلْفَ الْمُسْبِلِ, and salat behind someone who is dragging his lower garment, sahihatun, it is correct. وَهُوَ آثِم, and that person who is doing this isbal, this musbil, he is a sinner. He is a sinner. Any questions?
Yes, Ustaz. Sometimes I hear some du'a saying that not to pray in this masjid because Imam is like that. It is different. The Sheikh portion is different from that, if you understand from here.
Well, there's one thing about is it permissible and one thing is it better. There's difference here. Yeah, Jews. We're talking about is it permissible, right? We're not talking about what is better. Is it better to be with the people of the Sunnah? Of course.
Yes.
But if the people of the Sunnah's masjid is 45 minutes away and the people of Innovation's masjid is 5 minutes away, and I'm not going to go to Salat because they're innovators and I'm not going to travel 45 minutes, then I should go to the Salat 5 minutes away, even though he's an innovator, because my Salat is correct, his Salat is correct, and it's better for me to be in the congregation. Now, if they start using you as an evidence to say, well, look, even Masal comes to us, you want to warn against us, but Masal prays with us every day, then stay away from that stay away from that masjid, because they're using you against the people of the Sunnah.
Okay.
At the same time, there is no Salafi masjid, Sunni masjid. A masjid is a masjid of Allah Azza wa Jal.
No.
Who's in charge of that masjid can change from day to day, from Salat to Salat.
No.
And so, for example, here in the Middle East, in Kuwait, we don't even think about who's the Imam. It's time to pray, you stop and go.
No.
Maybe if the sheikh if there's a well-known sheikh and you want to greet him, you go a few minutes further to go to that sheikh. But if it's time to pray and you're going to miss Salat, you just stop and you go. It doesn't matter who's the Imam.
Okay. No.
Should you sit in his classes? No. Should you sit in the innovators' classes? No. Should you sit in his gatherings where they're no, but this is Salat. I'm gonna go pray, and when he makes taslim, I'm gonna wait till him turn. I'm gonna wait for him to turn around from his, from facing the qibla, and I'm gonna get up and leave. Make my dhikr while I'm walking. No problem. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
But to avoid the Salat in order to because of someone who's leading the Salat, then this is not acceptable. If there's a Sunni masjid, if there's a so-called Sunni masjid on one side 5 minutes away, and there's a Mubtadi masjid on the other side 5 minutes away, go to the Sunni masjid.
Okay.
But like I said, if one's 5 minutes away and the Mubtadi, and the other one's 45 minutes away or 20 minutes away, and you're not going to go, then go to the masjid where the Imam is a Mubtadi, and his Salat and your Salat is acceptable, but just don't listen to his classes.
Okay. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. Now it's clear. I was confused about that matter. Thank you very much. Now it's clear. Jazakallah khairan.
وإياكم. أبو محمد أنت جاهز؟
نعم إن شاء الله. نعم. إذا ترك الإمام سنن الفعلية في الصلاة فالمأموم يتركها. So if the Imam leaves some of the sunnahs that are in the prayer, sunnah fi'liya, is that like some of the additional sunnahs? Yeah,
actions.
Okay. So if he leaves some of the sunnah actions in the prayer, then the one who's being led in prayer should also leave them.
For example, after the takbiratul ihram, he doesn't raise his hands. Or you're praying behind a Maliki and he places his hands on his sides. The sunnah is to place your hands on your chest. Right? Right hand over the left. If the Imam leaves it, you leave it. If the Imam doesn't raise his hands, you don't raise your hands. For example, إنما الإمام جعل الإمام ليتم به. The Imam was made to جعل الإمام. The Imam was made ليتم به, in order for him to be followed. You follow him.
What if you're in the second or third row and you can't see the Imam?
If you can't see, you can't see.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? But these are many things which come into place. For example, who should be directly behind the Imam?
The one who is more knowledgeable after him.
Those people are more knowledgeable. Those people who are more knowledgeable should be behind the Imam. That doesn't mean they can come late while the people who are less knowledgeable come early and take the front places. And then the people who are more knowledgeable come say, move out the way. Let me get this place. No, but since they're more knowledgeable, they should be in the masjid early. Right? And if you're in the second or third row and he's knowledgeable about the rulings of Salat, then you follow him. And if the Imam doesn't raise his hands or places them on his side, then you've seen the one or two or three guys who are most knowledgeable behind him doing likewise, and so you follow them.
Okay.
The issue just becomes up, what if they're not the most knowledgeable people in this and that? And that's where we fall into our problems, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is, whatever the imam does, you, as much as you're able to do, and whatever he leaves off, you leave off as much as you're able to.
Okay.
Here he says, وَإِنْ خَالَفَ الْفِعْلَ السُنَّةِ
وإن خالف فعل السنة في الصلاة توبع وتركت. So if he opposes an action from the sunnah during the salah, then is it tubiya wa turikat? Is it followed? He's followed?
He's followed, and that sunnah is left off.
And the sunnah is left
Like we
off.
said, placing the hands on the chest, or it's just like to leave them on the sides, right? If he doesn't raise his hands, if he does something which is opposite to the sunnah. For example, Sheikh Al-Albani would say if he goes down on his knees before he goes on before his hands, going into sajda, then leave off as he left it off and follow him in that, meaning follow him in going down on your knees first before your hands, right? The imam is meant to be followed.
Yeah, Ustaz, I think for me, I think it's a little difficult because now I have an imam. He doesn't raise the hand when he go out of ruku, something like that.
Do you make your sunnahs throughout the day, or you just make your fard prayers?
No, I just make. Usually, I go for the Isa prayer there.
I'm saying, but okay, so usually when you're at home or wherever else you're at, you don't have that problem, right?
Yes, I don't know.
Then raise your hands where everywhere else, and when you're behind him, don't raise your hands.
Yeah. Oh, I was saying just
Al-khilaf shar.
Al-khilaf
shar.
Okay.
Difference of these differences are evil.
Yeah.
You understand? No. People are looking at you. Why are you raising your hands? The imam didn't raise his hands. We don't raise our hands. They're not supposed to do this. It's shar. You pray all four prayers, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, and Maghrib, and you don't have no problem. But Isha, where you pray there, you have a problem. Just leave it alone. Follow the imam. The imam is meant to be followed.
Okay. No.
If the imam takes you, a person has more right to his position than someone else. So if you're directly behind the imam, for example, you get there early and you're behind the imam, and then somebody else comes, that's your place. But if the imam says move, I want so and so to stand here, you move. Khalas.
Okay. No.
Even though that's your right, right? It's your right, and it's the sunnah to raise your hands coming out of ruku'. However, he doesn't do so, don't do so. Don't oppose him.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Like it's sometimes
this is hard. This is hard. This is hard for us, man. We're inclined to oppose authority.
Yeah.
We live in a time when we're inclined to oppose authority.
Yeah. Yeah.
But authority is meant to be followed.
Yeah.
When Uthman radiallahu anhu made 4 rakat, he didn't shorten the prayer when he made Hajj.
No.
He didn't shorten the prayer, although the Prophet ﷺ shortened it. Abu Bakr shortened it. Omar shortened it. Uthman didn't shorten it. What did the people do? Did they buck, or did they pray a longer prayer with Uthman?
Yeah, they pray around him. Yeah.
They prayed the full prayer. They didn't shorten the prayer. And this is harder than not raising the hands. They made 2 extra rakat.
Okay.
That's more difficult than just not raising hands.
Yeah.
And when they asked Ibn Mas'ud why did he do it, he said, khilaf shar. Opposition and differing is evil.
No. Jazakallah khairan. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I have. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Wallahi, the Salafis have the haqq. But a lot of times we don't know how to apply it.
Okay.
And that's part of the haqq. You know, and this is part of why we say Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim. We're already on the straight path. We want more of the straight path, and we want to be firm on the straight path. And so, but being firm doesn't mean being firm against the people. It means being firm with ourselves on the straight path. And so be on the straight path, follow the straight path, but part of that is to follow the imam and to not differ with the people. Just imagine if we took this position, how many smaller arguments we could avoid. And for example, if say you make your sunnahs, okay, I'm gonna come to Isha and I'm gonna purposefully come early so I can make Tahiyatul Masjid in front of everybody. Not to show off, I'm praying Tahiyatul Masjid for Allah. But when I come out of ruku', I'm gonna raise my hands because I'm making Tahiyatul Masjid. I'm praying by myself. And then when the imam prays, I'm not going to raise my hands. Somebody's going to say, Akhi, I saw you when you prayed by yourself, you raise your hands. Then when you're behind the imam, you don't raise your hands. Why is that? Because the imam is meant to be followed, Akhi.
MashaAllah. Good point.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Everybody else talks about you Salafis want to cause problems and this and that, man. Here you are. You know what I mean? Following the imam, following the sunnah. Maybe you got something these people don't have. Maybe I should listen to y'all.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah. Good point. MashaAllah. Good point. Yeah. Inshallah.
We don't have to be rigid on everything that we do. We don't have to be always ready. There's a famous scholar. Do we all know the issue about Sheikh? They say Sheikh Al-Albani has irja. Do you know about this?
Yes.
No. You know, I don't know. Sorry.
Many people who hate the Sunnah, they say Sheikh Al-Albani has irja, meaning Iman is not, actions is not included in Iman, as well as some other things. Right? Most of the scholars of our time have refuted this. But there's a famous scholar. I'm not going to mention who he is. A famous scholar. And if I say it, and I'm not going to mention who he is, because if I say it, it's going to cause you a fitna. Because you're not going to believe that he really said it. And if you find out that he really said it, it might make you doubt in Sheikh Al-Albani. And this would be incorrect. Like he's he's probably the most famous sheikh alive on the earth. That's all I'm going to say. He says Sheikh Al-Albani has irja. This is in opposition to what Bin Baz said, Uthaymin said, everything. Al-Albani himself addressed it. However, this individual, this sheikh, Allah yahfadhahu, he doesn't, if you were to come and say, I follow Sheikh Al-Albani in this position, he's not going to say, oh, stay away from my gathering. You're this and that. You know, I said what I got to say. I believe the Sheikh has irja, and that's it. And he moves on. He doesn't like, well, why you still listening to the Sheikh if I told you he has this? See, we tell somebody the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then when they don't follow it, you say, I told you the hadith and you ain't listening to me. Why you ain't listening to me? And we get upset. No, this is not the way to be. First off, they're not rejecting the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're just rejecting your understanding of it, because they believe that their imam, who they're following, had understanding of that hadith as well, and he still chose to do other than that. Are they wrong with that? Yes, of course. That's not the way we look at things. However, he's not rejecting the hadith. He's rejecting your understanding of the hadith.
No.
And you are lesser to him than who he's following. So in order to combat that, stop arguing, keep learning, become someone who people turn to, and then he'll follow you and not follow that person.
No.
But we can't be rigid. We can't be rigid with ourselves. We have to be lenient, and we have to. The Prophet ﷺ said, we have a hadith, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامِ لِيُتَمَّ بِهِ. The imam was only appointed to be followed.
No.
Right? And yet we say that, we say, but the imam don't raise his hands. I can't follow it. Where's the application? Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. Yeah, I learned good thing today.
Well, yeah.
Thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan.
تفضل يا أبا محمد.
ويجب متابعة الإمام. And it's obligatory to follow the Imam. ويحرم مسابقته. And it's forbidden to is it compete or precede the Imam?
Precede.
Yeah.
to compete with him, but that would be here to proceed. Yes, to proceed.
Proceed.
Yeah. So you can't go ahead of the Imam. Sheikh Uthaymeen says there's 4 ways that the Imam is followed. Number 1, you precede him. You do the action before he does it. Right? Number 2, meaning, you know, sometimes the Imam, he moves slowly. As soon as he says Allahu Akbar, you quick. You're in ruku before he's in ruku. Or you're in sujood before he's in sujood. That's firstly. Secondly, is that you do it at the same time as him. He goes, you go at the same time. Thirdly, you follow him. He goes, then you go. He finishes getting into his position, then you go into your position. And fourthly, you delay from him. So he goes into his position and you stay in your position because you're not still done with your adhkar or so on and so forth. The only one is correct here is the third position, is that you follow. To proceed, to go at the same time, or to delay from following him, all these are incorrect. The going before him could nullify your salah. Going at the same time as him lessens the reward. Following him is the way to do it, and delaying from him could nullify your salah if you delay long enough where you miss that position, where he goes into ruku' and you're still standing there, and or he comes out of ruku' and you're still in ruku', and then he starts to go down into sajda and you still haven't stood up. Your salat became batil because you're no longer following him.
Okay.
So you need to follow, not proceed, not go at the same time, and not delay. And he's going to talk about that right here, some right now. وَيَحْرُمُ رَفْعُ
ويحرم رفع الرأس من الركوع أو السجود قبل الإمام. And it's forbidden to raise the head from ruku or from sujud before the Imam does so.
نعم.
ولا يسجد المعموم حتى يضع الإمام جبهته على الأرض. And the ma'mum, the one who's being led in prayer, he does not prostrate until the Imam puts his forehead on the earth.
Naam. So, and when it means don't prostrate, mean don't even bend your back. That's what the Sahaba used to say. We would not even bend our back until the Imam placed his forehead on the ground.
Okay.
And wallahi, if you do this, you'll be the only one in your masjid doing it.
Yeah.
Everyone else will be competing with him, preceding him, or doing it the same time as him. But no one will wait until he goes in his position.
Okay.
And there are hadith inside Sunan Ibn Majah where he talks about this is for that. I can't remember the hadith off the top of my head. He said fatilka lidhak or something like that. I can't remember. Fahadha lidhak. I can't remember. But it says it over and over again, meaning while the Imam is saying Allahu Akbar, say for example, the Imam, you're in sajda now, right? And the Imam comes out of sajda. While he's sitting up saying Allahu Akbar, you're still in sajda. So whatever you missed by waiting till he goes down, you're going to make up while he moves. And then you're going to move. And then you're still going to be in your position. He's going to move again. And then you're going to wait. So you're going to have these extra seconds that you think you're missing from the beginning. You're going to make them up in the end. If you do this, wallahi, this is the way of the Sahaba. The Sahaba said we would not bend our backs until we saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam place his forehead on the ground. So if you do this, this is the way. I have an idea. I'm not able to achieve it at this point, but inshallah ta'ala, I'm gathering the books, I think, in the ability, inshallah, to be able to do it in the future. I have a book because Sifat Salat al-Nabi is really for the Imam or the person praying by himself for the most part. There are certain questions that come about with the follower, the one who's following in the Salat. such as the one who comes late. How does one follow the imam? I want to do sifat salatul ma'mumin, the description of the followers in the prayer, the description of the prayer of the followers. I want to make it like an appendix. I want to make it an appendix to Sifat Salah. I talked to Sheikh Al-Albani's nephew here, and he said it was a good idea. But like I said, I don't necessarily have the ability right now as well as the materials, but I'm slowly gathering it, inshallah. That's my goal, to make appendix to Salat al-Nabi that will be taught along with it, inshallah.
MashaAllah.
Allah give you tawfiq.
May Allah make you.
Ameen.
Yeah. Realize it, mashallah.
ولا يسجد المأموم حتى يد الإمام جبهته على الأرض. So the person following, or the follower, does not make sajda. He does not even go into sajda until the imam places his forehead on the ground. ويخرج المأموم
من الصلاة بعد التسليمة الأولى. And the ma'mum, the one who's following the imam, he exits from the salah after the first taslim.
Now, as we said yesterday, the first taslim is a rukn, the second taslim is a sunnah, right? So when he says assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, or assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi, or assalamu alaikum on the right side, whichever the case, that's the end of salah. He can, if he were to pass gas right then before going to the left, no problem, right? He's completed his salah.
Okay.
Right? He leaves the salat with that. ويسن الجهر
ويسن الجهر بما يسر به من باب تعليم الناس وتذكيرهم ببعض السنن. And it's a sunnah to make apparent what he normally keeps silent from the angle of educating the people and to reminding them of some of the sunnahs of prayer.
No. So to say certain things that are said silently, such as, for example, say you have a bunch of new Muslims. This is, on Yom Sabt after Dhuhr, you have a class for new Muslims, right? And they're learning how to make salat. For example, Asr comes in, all the new Muslims are there. It comes to salat. Inside ruku', you could say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim out loud. Subhana Rabbiyal A'la out loud. Attahiyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibatu out loud. You could say some of these things. You could even say Al-Fatiha and other surah out loud. You're trying to teach them how to pray. You're praying and you're also teaching them how to pray. No problem, from the angle of educating the people and reminding them. Right? والإمام
ينصرف إما يمينا أو يسارا. So the imam, he departs either from the right or the left.
Yes, some people in their madhab, they believe you can only turn to the right. You can't turn to the left when you want to turn away from the salat, right? You can't turn to the right, man. You got to turn to the left, or you can't turn to the left. Whichever way you turn. The Prophet ﷺ did both.
Before we move, I have another question. It's not clear in my head how to follow the imam. When the imam say Assalamu alaikum, sometimes he says 2 times, left, right. As me, for the mamum, I should wait until he does those two salam, and after that I began to do my salam, or I just follow him one by one. You understand?
Sheikh Al-Albani's position is that when he says it to the right, you say it to the right. He says it to the left, you say it to the left.
Okay.
This is the Hanafi position as well. That's why some people like to say Sheikh Al-Albani was Hanafi, right? One of my teachers here, because I follow Sheikh Al-Albani and most of his rulings here, he calls me Hanafi.
Well, his father was, huh? Yeah.
His father was Hanafi now.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No. So Sheikh
Man,
Al-Albani, he turns right, you turn right. He turns left, you turn left. The issue with that is, or something you're going to have to get used to, is that when you turn to the left, everyone else is going to be turning to their right. And so when you turn to your left, you're going to be looking at someone in their face.
Yeah.
You got it. That's what you got to do. طيب, the 32nd section. من فاتته
من فاتته المغرب ودخل المسجد والإمام بدأ بالإشاء. So whoever has, he's missed the Maghrib prayer, and he entered the masjid, and the Imam has began to pray Isha. فيصلي معه, then he prays with him. وينوي فريضة المغرب, and he intends the obligatory prayer of Maghrib. ولكنه إذا قام الإمام إلى ركعة الرابعة نوى هو المفارقة. But if the Imam, he gets up for the fourth rak'ah, he intends that he will depart.
Yeah, he's going to depart from following him.
وجلس في ركعة وجلس في الركعة الثالثة وتشهد وسلم. So he sits for the third rak'ah and he prays the tashahhud and he offers taslim. ثم قام ونوى الإشاء وراء الإمام الذي لا يزال يصلي صلاة الإشاء. Then he gets up and he intends the Isha prayer, and behind the Imam who is still praying the Salah. وإذا انقطع صوت الإمام عن المأمومين ولا يسمعون القراءة ولا تكبيرات. And if the voice of the Imam is cut off from the followers, and they can't hear his qira'ah or the takbirat, then upon them وعلى المأمومين الانفصال. Upon the followers is what? Infisal is to separate, or what is that?
Basically to separate, yes.
ويصلون فرادى, and to pray by themselves. ولا يتقدمهم أحد لكي لا تصبح جماعتين, and no one should precede them so that there be two jama'as.
Now, let's go through this real quick, inshallah.
Yeah.
So whoever missed Maghrib and the Imam is in Isha, we call on the Salat al-Isha. He's going to make intention to pray Maghrib behind the Imam. The Imam is praying Isha 4 rak'ah. He's going to make intention, I'm going to pray Isha. I'm going to pray Maghrib, but behind the Imam. So when it comes to the third rak'ah, when the Imam stands up for the fourth, he's going to stay sitting and make the tashahhud and make the taslim. If he does this all quick enough, then the Imam will still be standing or in ruku'. He can stand up and join the Imam in ruku' and catch that rak'ah along with the Imam. So then he caught congregation for both Maghrib and Isha.
Okay.
Except he has to make up 3 rak'ah from Isha, but he still caught the congregation. Right? Now what happens, this is a totally different subject here. It should be like a different paragraph in my opinion. And the Sheikh wrote this book, and within a little while he passed away. So there could have been some edits and so on. Corrections or something like this, but Allah knows best, right? So what happens if the Imam's voice cuts off and the people who are following him cannot hear his recitation nor his takbirat, and therefore they can't see him as well? So as we see, like in some masajid in the West, maybe there's an upstairs and a downstairs, or maybe some people are outside on Jumu'ah, so on and so forth, and they can't see the Imam, and they can't hear his recitation, and they can't see the rows either. For example, they can't see the rows inside. This could happen a lot of times when they put women in a separate room. If the microphone were to cut off or the electricity were to cut off and there's no TV and the TV is not, the TV cuts off, right? All of this were to happen. Then what do the women do? What do the people who are following do? They can't hear, they can't see. He says, then they should separate. Right? They should separate. What's it say? على المأمومين الانفصال. Upon them is the separation, and they pray individually. And they don't say, okay, we'll make so and so out here the imam, or so and so down here or up here in this other room a second imam, so therefore there's a second Jamaat. If something happens, you can't see those rows, you're in a different room. How some masjids are made up, there are different rooms and you can't see the other rows and you can't see what's going on, especially like I said with the women's areas, the way they make them in most masajid today. Then what happens is they separate and pray individually, and none of them becomes the leader, so that there are therefore two Jamaats. إذا أقيمت الصلاة
إذا أقيمت الصلاة المفروضة. So if the obligatory prayer is established, قطعت النافلة. The supererogatory prayer is cut off. فإن كان يدرك تكبيرة الإحرام. And even if the person فإن كان يدرك
not even if, but just if, but if he was able to make the takbiratul ihram.
Yeah, so if he's able to reach the takbiratul ihram, yutimmuha, then he completes the supererogatory prayer.
Nah.
وإن لم يدركها يقطعها, and if he's not able to reach it, then he cuts his supererogatory prayer off.
Nah. So he's praying his Tahiyatul Masjid, or he's praying his Sunnahs of Fajr, whatever extra prayer that he's praying, and the Iqamah is called. If he feels I can finish and still catch the first takbir, then I finish my Sunnahs. If I'm not, I'm in the first rakat, I just began, or I only finished one rakat and I'm in ruku', I'm not going to be able to catch the Imam in ruku' or catch him in his takbiratul ihram, then I cut off my Sunnah and join the Salat, so that I can catch takbiratul ihram, because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever catches takbiratul ihram along with the malaika, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ, his previous sins are forgiven.
Okay.
So you're not going to get that reward by continuing to make your sunnahs or your tahiyatul masjid or whatever it is. You're not going to get that reward of your previous sins being forgiven like this.
Yeah.
So you don't want to pass that up for something less than that. So cut off. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, this is based on the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, La salata إذا أقيم الصلاة فلا صلاة إلا المكتوبة. If the salah is established, then there is no salah except that which is written or prescribed. واختلاف
نية المقتدي عن نية الإمام لا يؤثر في صحة الصلاة. So the differing in the intentions of the one who's following from the niyyah of the Imam, it does not affect the correctness of the prayer.
Right, like we said with Maghrib and Isha, or if you came in, you missed Dhuhr and he's making Asr, you're not going to be able to catch both Jamaats like he did with Maghrib and Isha, because 4 rakat and 4 rakat. But if he's making his intention for Asr and you missed Dhuhr, then you make your intention for Dhuhr, right? And you pray Dhuhr while he's praying Asr, and then when you're done, you pray Asr. There's no problem. ولا
يقتدى بالمسبوق إذا أنهى الإمام الصلاة. What does that mean? And it's not followed, the thing that's been passed?
Masbuq, and this is a word you got to learn. This is a term you got to learn just what it means. You're not going to get it from the Arabic language, right? Someone who was preceded, meaning he came late to Salat. The person who has to make up prayer, some of the prayer, because he came late, right? He missed a rakat or more. this person is called masbuq, right?
Okay.
So لا يقتدى بالمسبوق إذا أنهى الإمام الصلاة. So the person who's late, when he stands up for his rakat or more that he missed, then someone else comes along and says, "Oh, I missed congregation. I'm going to make him my imam."
Okay.
Right? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
In our masjid, the brother who leads the salah on a normal basis is Somali. He claims to be from the Shafi madhab. That's what he adheres to, the Shafi madhab. To them, they say it's okay. But if you look at the Shafi madhab, Imam Shafi, he disliked it. He extremely disliked it. Right? And their madhab extremely dislikes it. But they allow it if it happens, but they don't encourage it. Right? And they allow it. I was sitting there one day and I started laughing after salat because I watched a guy who was masbuq. He became the imam. Right? And the person who came after him, of course, he's masbuq, because the first masbuq is only going to pray, say for example, 1 rakat. That's all he missed. While he missed 3 or 4. So he makes him the imam, right? This masbuq becomes the imam. He finishes salat, and now he has still 2 or 3 rakat left. Someone else comes and says, "Oh, I'm going to make this guy my imam." And I started laughing. You know, and they're like, "What are you laughing at?" And I was like, "Is this permissible in your madhab, man?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Man." And so I went and looked it up, and I did some research to find out what the different madhab say. Some of them disallow it, some of them allow it. Nobody allows it by liking it. It's disliked, kiraha shadida, but some do allow it. But it shouldn't be encouraged. And even if it's allowed, then they should tell the people don't do it. But I've sit there and seen 5, 6 different people still praying the same Lord that was prayed 20 minutes ago, because each one making the next one the imam. Allah Mustaan.
Ustaz, I have one question like that. Here, I see people when after the Fajr prayer, you try to pray Sunnah, and the people who come late, they follow you when you are praying Sunnah, but the intention is playing Fajr prayer. Is that allowed also? You understand my question?
Yeah, I understand the question.
Yeah.
With the principle that praying 2 jama'ats in 1 masjid is disliked, then this won't happen. However, he didn't say it was haram. He said it was disliked. Right? And so if a person were to come and you allowed them to do it, no problem. I mean, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some people missed Salatul Fajr, and when they came in, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Who will stand up and give these people some sadaqah," meaning lead them in prayer, because you already got so many rewards for praying in congregation, so you can give some to them by leading them, right? So this person was praying extra prayers, nafil prayers, while this person was praying the obligatory prayer. So from this aspect, it's okay. But the person who, from your aspect of you praying your sunnahs, it's okay. Right? However, from the aspect of the person coming to join you, then he shouldn't do that.
Okay.
But that's on him, not on you. You understand?
Yeah. Okay. Jazakallah. Thank you. Thank you.
Al-Jumu'atu wajibatun.
نعم صلاة الجمعة. الجمعة واجبة على كل مكلف. So Jumu'ah is wajib, obligatory upon everyone that is accountable.
No.
إلا على عبد مملوك, except upon the servant, his own, slave. أو امرأة, or a woman, أو صبي, or a child, or مريض, or someone sick, or مسافر, or someone who's traveling.
No, so these are the people who don't have to make Jumu'ah: a slave, a woman, a child, a sick, and a traveler. طيب.
نعم. غسل الجمعة واجب. The bathing on the day of Jumu'ah is wajib, obligatory. ويجزئ عن الوضوء, and is that rewarded for, or is it replaces wudu?
Well, I'm sorry, I looked at something. Well, yuju anil wudu. Yeah, it takes the place of wudu.
Yeah.
If you make
Or you,
ghusl for Jumu'ah, you don't have to make wudu too. You just ghusl takes the place of wudu.
ويصلي قبل الزوال ما شاء من النوافل. And he prays and he's prayed and he prays it before the zawal ما شاء من نوافل. Is that coming before coming to end of what is
ويصلي
good?
قبل الزوال ما شاء من النوافل. So he prays before the sun reaches the middle point as much as he wants from the optional prayers.
Okay.
Right. 1 second here. I gotta answer this question. This brother Abdul Mu'min, I guess. What if the Imam stood from ruku before we joined the Isha? This is talking about joining Maghrib with Isha for the follower who was late or missed Maghrib. We will be able to join the congregation and make up 4 rakats, right? The ulama differ over the fact, have you made the congregation if you missed the last ruku' from the final rakat? It doesn't matter. Whatever you catch with the imam from the generality of the hadith, whatever you catch with the imam praying, whatever you miss, make it up. So inshallah ta'ala, you'll still get the congregation. Inshallah. Even though many people say no, if you don't make the ruku' of the final rakat, then you have not caught that salat, because there are hadith related to this. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, whatever you catch with the imam, pray it. And whatever you miss, make it up. So even if you miss everything except that, including that last ruku', then inshallah ta'ala, you will still catch the salat. Inshallah. I'm sorry. وَلَيْسَ لِلْجُمْعَةِ
وليس للجمعة سنة قبلية. So there is no set sunnahs before the Jumu'ah prayer.
Now, this other sentence before that, we said قبل الزوال ما شاء من النوافل. This is related to, we know the section or the 15 or 20 minutes before Dhuhr comes in, it's prohibited us for us to pray. That's when the sun is directly above its zenith, right? Directly above the middle point of the sky. That point is one of the times of prayer. The prayer is prohibited after Fajr, right? Once the sun rises, when the sun's in the middle, right before the sun sets, right? These are prohibited times of praying. But here on Jumu'ah, it's permissible, right? And there are no sunnahs before Salatul Jumu'ah.
ولها سنة بعدية أربع أو ركعتان. And the Jumu'ah prayer, after the Jumu'ah prayer, there are sunnahs after it, either 4 or 2. وتصلى سنة الجمعة في المسجد أو البيت. And these sunnah prayers are either prayed in the masjid or in the house. دون تفريق, without splitting.
Yeah. You pray them here or there, not both necessarily, right?
Yeah, I come across someone when I first started practicing. They said, pray 2 in the masjid and pray 2 at home. That was the sunnah. That's what they said.
Wallahi, there's a lot of different things. There's a lot. This discussion is a long discussion. There's a lot of different hadith. Some people say if you're going to pray at home, pray 2. If you're going to pray in a masjid, pray 4, because praying at home is better. Some people say this. Some people say that. From what I believe, and this is the position I believe of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and some of our mashayikh here, it doesn't matter. You can pray 2 or 4. You can pray them in the masjid or you can pray them at home. Right?
Yeah.
Ustaz, I have one question. Here is written now, Wales li Jum'ati sunnatan kabliya. As for me, when I go to Juma, sometimes I go early, and before Imam come, I used to pray 2 rakah. But after Zawal, it is better to leave, or
no? You can pray 2 rakat. As he said, you saw the qabla zawal masha min an-nawafil. He prays as much as he wants.
But he say here, qabla zawal.
But no, there's no set number. There's no sunnah. There's no sunnah. That's nawafil. That's extra prayers. You see what I'm saying? There are no sunnahs like 2 or 4 before or after like this. There is no set number, but to pray 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, no problem. This is the sunnah.
Okay, because he was saying yusalli qabla zawal. Qabla zawal. That was my.
Because most people are gonna, when the zawal comes, they're gonna call the adhan for fajr. I mean the adhan for Jumu'ah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The imam's gonna come in at that time. But you can keep praying 2 by 2 by 2 as much as you want.
Okay.
But there is no set number. Like when I come in, I have to make 2 rakat or 4 rakat, and there's a reward for this. No.
Jazakallah. Allah barik.
ووقت الجمعة
ووقت الجمعة قبل الزوال أو بعد الزوال. So the time of Jumu'ah is before the zawal or after it. وأذان الجمعة واحد. And the adhan for Jumu'ah is one. But didn't it Umar, was it Uthman? Sorry, they make the second adhan for Jumu'ah.
He's going to talk to you about that in a minute.
Okay. ويكون عند صعود الإمام على المنبر. And it's going to be, the adhan's going to take place at the time when the Imam is climbing the minbar. وليس اثنين, and not 2. وفعل عثمان بن عفان كان لإلة بعد الناس عن المساجد. And the action of Uthman radiallahu anhu, Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu, it was because of the illa, was that exception or because of
the reason, or the reason for it was,
the reason for the distance of the people being far away from the masajid.
No.
والآن كثرت المساجد, and now there are numerous masajid, many masajid. ويبلغ الأذان لكل أحد, and the adhan, it reaches everyone. ويكون الأذان عند باب المسجد, and the adhan should be at the door of the masjid. So it should be performed at the door of the masjid. وليس بين يدي الإمام قرب المنبر, and it shouldn't be in front of the imam, close to the minbar.
No. So this adhan of Uthman, when the people became many and the city started to spread, then he used to send a muezzin to the marketplace to call the adhan early on to let them know Jumu'ah is coming soon. It wasn't done from the masjid. It was done where the people were in the marketplace, busy, far from the masjid. And so this adhan of Uthman, if you're going to call it, it should be done like the way Uthman radiallahu anhu called it. Meaning, call it where people are away, but not from the masjid to adhans. Of course, you're going to have other scholars differ. Sheikh Suleiman al-Ruhaili, he differs with this tremendously. but this is the Sheikh's position, and to me, this is the strongest position. And they say no one differed with Uthman when he did this, or no one opposed him, but this is not true. There were some Sahaba who opposed the adhan of Uthman in his time, and then even when they allowed it, they said they're going to allow it, but on the way that Uthman did it, meaning away from the masjid in order to call the people. But as the Sheikh said now, kathrat al-masajid, the masajid are many. In our masjid particular, there's a couple Muslim-owned businesses down the street from it. So what we had done, although we don't do it anymore, may Allah give us the strength, that what we had done is the muezzin used to go down to buy their stores and call the adhan out in front of their businesses and then come back down to the masjid in order to do it like Uthman would do it. So we would still have the 2 adhans, but it would be done the way that Uthman did it and not the way that the people do it today. And Allah knows best. As for the imam, the adhan being at the door of the masjid and not in front of the imam next to the minbar, because the adhan is for the people outside and the iqamah is for the people inside. Now people say, well, that's removed by the microphone, but the Sheikh, he has a whole nother spiel about the microphone. Probably won't be mentioned here, and Allah knows best.
والأذان الذي يحرم العمل هو عندما يصعد الإمام على المنبر ويؤذن المؤذن. So the adhan that prohibits work or people earning their livelihood. That is when the Imam he climbs the minbar and the Muaddin gives the adhan, calls the
Okay.
No,
adhan.
not if you do call two adhans. If a business transaction were to take place after that first adhan of Uthman, then that business transaction is still valid. However,
Okay.
if after the imam ascends or climbs the minbar, and the muezzin calls the adhan, all business transactions are prohibited.
Okay.
Here's another strange position coming up from the sheikh.
Yeah. وتنعقد صلاة الجمعة بما تنعقد به صلاة الجماعة. Is that mean the salah is held
Basically,
of
the
Jumu'ah?
Salatul Jumu'ah is held, basically,
Yeah.
right?
With what the Salat al-Jama'ah is held.
Nah, meaning, وصلاة الجماعة تنعقد بواحد مع الإمام. That the congregational salah is held with one person along with the imam, right? Meaning you don't have to have 40 people, as some people
Okay.
say. You have to have 40 people besides the imam. No, you don't have to have that. Otherwise, there's no Jumu'ah. It's just dhuhr. You don't have to be 40 people, right? Tanaqidu salatul Jumu'ah. Salatul Jumu'ah is held bima tanaqidu bihi salatul Jama'ah. It's held with what salatul Jama'ah is held. وصلاة الجماعة تنعقد بواحد مع الإمام. And the congregational prayer is held with one person along with the imam. وصلاة الجمعة
وصلاة الجمعة هي صلاة
من
min
الصلوات.
salawat. Yeah, so the Salah al-Jum'ah is one of the prayers from the prayers.
It's just another prayer. If all the other prayers can be held with two, then Jumu'ah can be held with two. فمن اشترط
فمن اشترط فيها زيادة على ما تنعقد به جماعة فعليه بدليل ولا دليل. So, and the one who stipulates that there should be more for people for the Jama'ah of Salat al-Jummah, then upon him is to bring the proof, and he doesn't have no proof.
and there is no proof, right?
Okay.
So فمن اشترط, so whoever makes it a condition, فيها, meaning in Salatul Jumu'ah, زيادة على ما تنعقد به الجماعة, an increase over what the congregational prayer is held. So you need more than that, more than what the congregational prayer is. فعليه بالدليل, then upon him is to bring the evidence. ولا دليل, and there is no evidence.
Okay.
ولا يشترط
ولا يشترط الإمام الأعظم لإقامة الجمعة, and it is not stipulated that the Imam al-A'zam has to be present for the establishment of the Jum'ah.
Yeah, I
Jum'ah.
mean, you don't have to have the leader, the emir, or whoever they put in charge, the grand mufti or the king or the emir or whatever. You don't have to have him to establish the Jummah. You can establish Jummah without him. He doesn't have to be this. The one leading Jummah does not have to be the leader of the Muslims.
فتصح بمن وكل بها, and it's correct with one who's been appointed for it. Or
No.
entrusted with it.
So if the imam appoints someone to be the leader of the country, appoints someone to be the imam, then it's fine. The imam doesn't have to be there. I wanted to read this section. If you don't mind, I'll read it unless you guys are in a rush.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
It's
Let
okay.
me. I'll read it, inshallah ta'ala. I just wanted to get this part done because the next is about the khutbah, right? This is about who attends Salatul Jumu'ah. تقام الجمعة في الحضر. Salatul Jumu'ah is established in residence. وعند أهل البادية, and amongst the people of the badia, the outskirts.
Countryside, yeah.
Yeah, the countryside, the outskirts. وفي القرى, and in the villages. وفي كل مكان وجدت فيه الجماعة, and in every place in which there is found in a congregation. ولا تسقط عن من ذهب لتنزه. And the obligation to pray Salatul Jumu'ah does not fall off from the one who goes out to picnic, or just he goes out to the, countryside or wherever by himself. Just because he goes out there, it doesn't mean it falls off.
Okay.
ولا تصلى الظهر بعد الجماعة. And Salat al-Dhuhr is not prayed after Jumu'ati, not Jama'ati. ولا تصلى الظهر بعد الجمعة. And Dhuhr is not to be prayed after Jumu'ah. ولا دليل على صلاة الظهر بعد الجمعة. And there is no evidence for praying Salat al-Dhuhr after Salat al-Jumu'ah. وإذا اجتمع العيد والجمعة. And again, this is a position that is not so strange. Ibn al-Qayyim talks about it in Zad al-Ma'ad, and since that section's translated, then people talk about it. But this is different than the famous Hanbali position held by people today. وإذا اجتمع العيد والجمعة. And if Eid and Jumu'ah come together on the same day, فإن الجمعة تسقط عن المأموم. Then Jumu'ah, the obligation to perform Jumu'ah, falls off the follower. الذي صلى العيد. The follower who prayed Salatul Eid. So if the follower prays Salatul Eid, he does not have to pray Jumu'ah. وتسقط عنه الظهر. And Salatul Dhuhr falls off of him as well. He does not have to pray Dhuhr either. وَلَا تَسْقُطُ عَنَ الْإِمَامِ. But it does not fall off the Imam. The obligation for Jumu'ah does not fall off the Imam. He still has to pray. وَلَا حَرَجَ مِنَ السَّفَرِ قَبْلَ الْجُمُعَةِ قَبْلَ الْأَذَانِ. And there's no problem if someone travels before Jumu'ah, before the Adhan. Right? But here he says,
go ahead. The part where he says تسقط عنه الظهر, does that mean the person who prayed the Zuhr is not obligatory upon him to pray, or he prays it at his house?
No, the person who prayed Eid, does not have to. If Jumu'ah falls, if the Eid coincides with Yom al-Jumu'ah, and the person prays Salat al-Eid, he does not have to pray Jumu'ah, and he does not have to pray Dhuhr. Not in his house, not in the masjid. There are only 5 prayers in a day and a night, and you prayed the Eid, which was an obligation upon you to pray, because it's his position that the Eid is an obligation, right? So there's only 5 prayers in a day and a night, right? The Prophet ﷺ told the people, as for you, you don't have to pray Jumu'ah, but as for me, then I have to go. Meaning, because some people might not have made it to the Eid. They might have been traveling, and then they're coming back before Jumu'ah and this and that. So they're here. They have to pray Jumu'ah. I'm the leader. I have to pray Jumu'ah because there may be people who come. But as for you, you guys don't have to. And Jumu'ah takes the place of Dhuhr. There is no Dhuhr on Jumu'ah, right or wrong? Unless you're traveling, right? So therefore, since there's a Jumu'ah, there's no Dhuhr, and it falls off of the person who prayed the Eid.
Oh, yeah. First time to hear that opinion. Jazakallah khairan.
If you go read the translation of Zad al-Ma'ad by Ibn al-Qayyim, then inside there where it talks about Jumu'ah, he brings this. This is the position of Abu Hurairah and other than him.
Mashallah.
Inshallah, on Yom al-Ahad, for us, Yom al-Sabt, for some people in the West, it'll be Laylatul Ahad, the night of Ahad, Saturday night. Then we'll meet again and we'll start talking about Khutbat al-Jumu'ah. Inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan for your patience. Sorry for the long tangents I went on today.
No, it's
hopefully they were beneficial.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's beneficial. Jazakallah khairan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.